Feliz lunes, familias, amigos de Revolución Educativa, or RevvED for short. My name is Christy Moreno, and I am so happy to be here on Monday. Usually I'm not here on Mondays talking to you all, but we have a very special guest today, and I am just very honored to be presenting, along with my teammates, our Impacto awardees, our Impacto Changemaker Award. So back in early June, Revolución Educativa awarded 25 recognitions in honor of those Latino changemakers who are boots on the ground doing the work to impact the lives of our families, of our students, of our community at large here in the Kansas City, the greater Kansas City metropolitan area. And today we have Karla Juarez, who is the executive director for AIRR. AIRR stands for Advocates for Immigrant Rights and Reconciliation. Hola, Karla, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, Christy. Gracias por la invitación. Thank you for the invitation from you and your team.
Very,
Awesome.
Very excited to highlight your work, to highlight you as a human of excellence, because I consider you that. And so let's just jump in this conversation. Tell us a little bit about your story, how you got to be leading AIRR right now. Where did you grow up? Kind of just a little bit about you.
Yeah. So I was born in Parral, Chihuahua, Mexico, and my family and I migrated when I was 5 years old, around that time, like 4 or 5 years old. And I grew up in New Mexico, actually. I finished high school there, graduated college, and moved to Kansas City in 2017. And I met individuals doing the work at AIRR, specifically some board members and community members. And I actually worked for AIRR for a week in 2017. But I went on to something else, and I stayed as a board member. So I was a board member before I was executive director of AIRR.
How long have you been holding that executive director position?
September of 2020.
Awesome. So tell us what AIRR is. What do you guys do?
Yeah. What don't we do is the question.
Exactly. What don't you do?
So Advocates for Immigrant Rights and Reconciliation, we have a education arm of our organization, and that goal, the primary goal, is to educate church members, educators, professionals, anybody really serving the immigrant community about the basics of the complex immigration system, because it's very, very difficult to understand. But the basics, like, what is DACA, right? Can anybody just walk in the immigration office and request for a working permit? No, the answer is no, but not a lot of people know that. So AIRR exists and actually was founded on that, is to change hearts and minds about immigration. And our other parts are the advocacy. Really, we're advocates for immigrants. So a very huge thing is we advocate for policies that work for everyone, including our immigrant community.
Yeah, that is wonderful. How long has AIRR been around?
Since 2006, a group of community members, clergy members came together and actually decided to found AIRR. It was another name before. It officially became AIRR in 2011. So yeah, it's been around for quite some time already.
Tell me a little bit about how do you personally relate to the work you're doing, to the community needs that you see and that you serve? I really love you mentioned something very special, which is the education piece, that arm, right? But also providing support services and advocacy for immigrants themselves. So tell us, is there a way in which you relate to this personally? How have you felt drawn into doing this work?
Yeah. So one thing I didn't mention at the beginning is that we have our accompaniment program that provides accompaniment for individuals needing immigration, just really someone to accompany them to their ICE check-in or their immigration court date. So that's something really huge that we do. So I'm an immigrant and I grew up undocumented, actually. So my family and I benefited from organizations like AIRR growing up. So it's just deeply personal for me. And that's just how I connect. We needed accompaniment. We also needed access to lawyers in the area that we didn't have. So AIR has a list of attorneys, in the area, so people can choose and can feel, like they don't have to do a simple Google search and wonder if they do a good job, right? Of course, the decision to choose an attorney is theirs, but we provide a list, and I needed that growing up. So that's how I relate to
I
my
ask
work.
this question, and I love asking this question because in my advocacy journey, my personal advocacy journey, and now doing this full time and dedicated, to this pretty much day and night, I find that the majority of us doing this kind of work have a really, really like personal connection to it. And so it is not just about doing it professionally and getting educated and finding the means to acquire more information, but actually it is a very emotional process for us, right? And our day in and our day out, as we do this work, which brings me to the next point, which is this kind of advocacy work where you're boots on the ground, where you're seeing the struggle, where you're confronted with the false narrative. In your case, the false narratives about the immigration system and the processes and immigrants themselves. It can be pretty taxing emotionally, mentally, physically. Can you shine some light into how, as an advocate that is dedicated to this work, how do you find that balance? What is your support system like? What have been, and this is just very broad, you can go from this and take it wherever you want, right? But what are those barriers that you have had to conquer been like, and how has that experience been for you?
Well, yeah, this work can be a lot of emotional energy because, when you have a family that is going through such a difficult time, and so having such limited resources and not be able to see the case through, I guess, per se, um, in other words, sucks. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
And so it's yeah, I could be those people that would drop everything and just help the person and try to solve their lives, but it's not healthy. So having healthy boundaries is a good way to continue this work. Community is huge. I think it would be difficult to continue this such strong community that we have. Um, and so yeah, so sometimes if we can't provide a resource, we will connect the individual with that resource, and just having that community is amazing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so who has been that support system for you? In my case, I can tell you, for example, my family has been very supportive, at times worried about my health, right? Because this can be pretty taxing, as I mentioned. But like, who's there for you? Who's been there along this journey with you?
Yeah, definitely my husband. I'm with him every single day. We talk about our day every single time, and he has been amazing. He works in the for-profit sector, so he's very he's like my, how would I call it, my escape
Yeah.
from such hard times sometimes that I have to go through at work. So he's amazing, and my mom and family overall. But I would say my husband, he's he's my best friend. So, and therapy, really, I have always
Yeah.
said this. I think to do this work, it should come with a therapist. So that has been helpful to set some healthy boundaries and
Yeah.
not work 24 hours a day. So, yeah, it's
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I always like to push that out there because I think that many of us couldn't do the work we do without having people that have our backs, that have either that are praying for us or that are taking us out to get, distracted, or that are actually interested in the work we do and asking us about our day, right? So that's why I always ask this question, especially when we talk to people like you and our change makers who, dedicate their lives and their hearts and a lot of times even their financial resources to ensuring that, we're treated equitably, that we're treated with dignity, with respect, and as human beings that we are. So I'm very grateful for the work that you and AIR have been doing over the years. You have an accompaniment training coming up, don't you?
Yes, we do. We
Tell us
do.
about it, because I know about it and I'm planning on coming. Hopefully I can make it. But tell us about it. I think it's a very incredible opportunity for people like us that want to do our part.
Yeah. So this is the training is very basic. We provide a training manual for people to read, and it just shares the basics of what our community goes through when they go through accompaniment, and also it highlights the fact that we are there just to accompany the person. Oftentimes if we bring our activism in the office with them, it could be very difficult for their case. So really respecting the fact that it's their case and their lives at stake. So we should, just be there in solidarity with them. So that's a big highlight of our training. And yeah, it's just whenever we have a community member call us in need of accompaniment, we have like a system to connect the person with the volunteer, and there's just a bit of paperwork to do, like a one pager of what your experience was and the follow-up that's needed. So our accompaniment program is awesome because it's almost fully volunteer run, and that's kind of the goal of AIR is to bring that community into the work. So yeah, it's this Wednesday at 6:30. People can email us if they're interested at info@airkc.org. But yeah, we have other issues that night as well that we're working on.
Thank you so much for sharing, so people know where to go, and where they can find more information and how they can learn about the work you do and volunteer. What about your advocacy piece? Like, when do you go to the state capitol? When you knock on doors with legislators and elected officials? What does that side of your work look like?
Yeah. So we do mainly issue-based organizing because we're a 501c3. But our biggest thing that we just finished working on is safe and welcoming Wyandotte. And we were organizing in Wyandotte County, Kansas, to pass an ordinance that will provide a municipal ID for everyone, including immigrants and documented immigrants, anybody who needs an ID, for example, to pick up their children in school or enroll their child in school. And that ordinance also included some protections, guidelines between the police and ICE, and it just tells them how to work together. Also to protect victims of violent crimes. And unfortunately, that was shut down by the state. And yeah, there's a long story there. But our advocacy pieces include town halls. Like, we were working on that for 5 years, but I think the last 2 years we focused a lot on, especially during COVID, instead of knocking on doors, we did a lot of phone banking, petition signing online. So like the digital advocacy was very highlighted in these past 2 years. So we had petitions, we had phone banks, we had one-on-one conversations with community members. That's just the basics of organizing, and the advocacy is just building those relationships with people that have these experiences like mine, to advocate together. So yeah, it's that. We knocked on some doors. I think the last 2 months of the ordinance, that ordinance did pass in Wyandotte County, so there will be some IDs. But yeah, we knocked on doors, collected signatures to deliver to commissioners, to county commissioners. Yeah, so very deeply grassroots. Town halls, public meetings. We did everything.
What is the biggest piece of misinformation that you find yourself combating constantly or course correcting? That false narrative, the judgment that is made without, the actual facts or the actual knowledge. What is the biggest one that you can highlight for us today?
Why the one that comes to mind always is, why don't you do it the right way? Or we do support immigrants who come in the right way. And it's like,
Yeah.
what is the right way? Like coming to the port of entry and seeking asylum is the right way. Oftentimes people request refugee status in their home country and they wait years to be accepted and often die. Like lives are at stake because
Yeah.
it takes so long. So when they ask themselves, what is the right way? Really, it's, the immigration law is just terrible. And it doesn't work for everybody. So coming in the right way, what is the right way, right?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, because that's probably with regards to immigration policy and that experience, that's the one that I hear the most, right? And I have been through immigration processes before, and I oftentimes I tell people, no, you actually don't have it right. Like, I have the lived in experience, and this is how it goes, right? And so that is definitely very important. I love the fact that you provide that education to whoever's interested in learning. So thank you so much for sharing. Let's shift a little bit more to you, more to your personal experience. Um, Tell us what growing up was like in school. What was your education like? What was going to school like for you, K through 12? If you want to highlight some memories or references there.
Yeah. Well, learning English was big. And of course, like at a young age, I feel like I picked it up pretty easily. I am the oldest of four first generation college graduate in my immediate family. Um, Oftentimes my mom's interpreter, it's just how it is. I feel like that's how I learned English so fast. Um, but yeah, it was great. I grew up and learned English. I think I had bilingual classes like from first grade all the way through second grade. So I remember we moved and I went to another school and my teacher didn't speak Spanish. So that's when I really picked up my English skills. But I was partnered up. I think the school had like a partner system where they partnered me with another student who spoke English and Spanish. So I remember her name is Cindy. We were still friends till this day. And
Wow.
yeah, she's awesome. So yeah, and then going to middle school, awesome. Of course, I grew up in New Mexico, so it's very different than Kansas and Missouri. In New Mexico, I feel like everybody knows Spanish and speaking Spanish is normal. It's very very different. Um, in high school, though, I went to a public school and it was really I didn't I wasn't getting like the educational my needs weren't met. So I asked my mom to move me and she moved me to a charter school where it was like much smaller,
Hmm.
um, a bigger focus on education, I felt like. And it was great. And then the idea of college came up. I've always wanted to go to college, right? Back then. Um, and I was undocumented still in high school.
Yeah.
So that was very life changing. I didn't really know what being undocumented meant until I was like 15, 16 and
Hmm.
wanted to get a job.
Hmm.
Um, so, so yeah, it was very like, what am I going to do now type of thing. Like my dreams are crushed kind of.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And Carla,
those
there's many students who still find themselves in that situation, right?
are,
We know here, in the state of Missouri, for example, tuition equity is not a reality for for our undocumented high school students that are wanting to pursue and further their education. And that's actually something that we're advocating for. We did this last legislative session. I know AIR has been advocating for this for a good 5, 6, 7 years. I don't know how long. But that you're describing that you went through, that is still the experience of many of our youth here in our area. Fortunately, not in Kansas because they do have tuition equity, which can't remember exactly when that passed. Karla, you might remember 2018, possibly.
I think it might be in the early 2000s, I want to say.
So earlier a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But Missouri is actually the only state in this region, like all the surrounding states do have tuition equity, and it's something that we're fighting for. But then, so what did you do? So did you go to college? How did that work out?
I did. I went to college. New Mexico is also one of the states that has full tuition,
Or
in-state
tuition, yeah.
for undocumented students. Also scholarships, and now they have free college. So
they do. Oh my goodness! And this is recent, right? Recent news, like
yes,
2 months, I think.
It is.
Yeah, we're all like, let's move over there.
Yeah, they are like. Yes, I agree. Like they are a good example to follow. There's also driver's licenses for all in New Mexico. So again, that's a good example to follow. But I did go to college. I graduated with a scholarship called the Lottery Scholarship that's given to most every student that graduates a high school in New Mexico. So I did that, but I went to community college, Central New Mexico Community College, because, being a first generation college student, my parents not knowing a lot of English, I had to really, and my story isn't unique. Like this happens to a lot of students that I meet now. They are the first generation students. They are the oldest in their family, and they have to navigate that life alone, basically. So I didn't know that you needed to take an SAT or ACT for your college. Not that community colleges is bad, because it was great. The education is the same, but I didn't know I needed to do all of that. So when I found out, I'm like, oh my God, I can't go to college now. But fortunately, I was able to connect. My charter school had like a partnership with CNM, Central New Mexico Community College, and I was able to enroll right out of high school, and still undocumented. I think at that time now we had a work permit. I had a work permit to be able to work, but that work permit, again, granted nothing but the ability to work, which was great because I needed to work. So yeah, I was able to get a scholarship to cover my full tuition at CNM, but it wasn't enough when I was able to transfer to UNM, which is the 4-year college. So yeah, that was me. I did go to college. I graduated.
Felicidades. What did you graduate with? What was your title or your degree?
Political science. Political science.
Lovely. What drew you into political science?
Oh man, I feel like my personal experience, definitely. I was on a pathway to law school, and because of our immigration experience, my immigration experience, I say our because my mom and sister, we were together. But definitely, I thought that was the only way that I could create change or solve anything, until I was presented in the organizing world. Like, attorneys are great advocates, but I would say that organizers, advocates work to change policies or implement good policy that benefits us all. And attorneys, often work in the system that already exists. And of course, they're good allies. Like they are good advocates as well because they know the system, right? So I feel, and then I became a citizen in 2020. And I told my husband, I'm like, I feel like I have been, my degree, like political science, it was like some history and like civics and all that stuff. I feel like I was preparing for my civics exam for my U.S. citizenship. Personal experience, and it helped when I became a citizen.
Yes. In the work that you've been doing, because of your own journey and your own, work in it, what is one thing that you can share with us that like you're most proud of? What is that one accomplishment that in times of, questioning, am I doing the right thing? Is this the right thing for me right now? Like, what is the one thing that grounds you?
Ooh, there's a lot. I
Or two
think,
or three, I mean,
yeah,
I'm not limiting you.
yeah. I think honestly, it's community doing the same work, support with uh, from people like you, Christy, from other people, my board members, core team leaders, everybody who's doing this work together keeps me going.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm not alone just doing this. And yeah, and really when we are able to help someone with their asylum case or point them the right direction or finding those resources for them, I just think that also keeps me going. Winning something like Safe and Welcoming makes me believe that that's possible here. Um, yeah, but mainly community. It's community.
Yes, I love that. I can't even remember who told me this, and it was not very long ago. Because I have, my ups and downs too, where I'm like, oh my goodness, we know that policy change takes time and it's frustrating and it's all about persevering and patience and being very creative, finding other means of putting your message out there. Um, but the advice that was given to me was like celebrate every win. There are huge wins, there are tiny wins that are might be just a gesture of you being able to, like you said, connect someone with a resource. All of those things deserve to be celebrated, and that's definitely in my case. And I every time I ask this question, it seems to be the common thing that I hear is that that's the fuel, right? It's finding the joy, finding the motivation every day, even in the smallest of wins and victories, and highlighting those. Which brings me to why we decided at Revolución Educativa to create the Impacto Changemaker Award. Because what it really is recognizing people like you, Karla, that have been doing this work, whether with their own organization or partnering with other organizations and with the community. But it oftentimes feel like we're all, working in silos, not because we want to, but we are so focused in the work we're doing that we forget sometimes, or maybe it's lack of time or capacity to join forces with others. And what we have realized is that, as we know, unidos somos fuerza, right? The more we work together, the more we're aware of what each of us is doing, what each of our organizations are focused on, and what our missions are, and where we can align and support each other, the better outcomes we'll have, the greater the impact we'll have in our community. Were you? How did you find out about you being a recipient and an honorary of the Impacto Changemaker Award? And what does it mean to you to be highlighted and recognized as such?
Yeah, I found out via an email from RevvED actually saying felicidades, and I'm like,
So you had no
what?
clue.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. So it was awesome. It was a cool day. I don't remember what day it was, but it made my day better.
Yeah.
Um, and what does it mean? I think you mentioned it, like being able to, of course, everybody who does this work, we do it for the we do it for the cause, right? Not for the applause. Um, but it was an honor for me to be awarded and next to so many other leaders that are doing work in the community. And a lot of them I knew, but also a lot of them I did not know. And there are opportunities where we can join forces and work together and increase our capacity, right, to make a bigger impact. So it was amazing to be awarded that, and thank you for that. Yeah, it's just again, I bring it back to community. It's
Yeah.
amazing to get to know so many people. Like, for example, I met someone at the event who is going to college to be a doctor. Like, they're in medical school right now, and we talked about the immigration experiences and about our immigration 101s and how, you know, even doctors need to know the immigration experiences because oftentimes that's tied to medical insurance. So yeah, it's just a bigger opportunity to see how many other people are creating an impact in every different facet of lives, like medical, advocacy, education. So it was nice to be around community.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Thank you so much. My last question to you is I would love for you to offer a piece of advice to me, to RevvED, to our viewers who are here now or will be watching this later. Just a piece of advice, whatever that may be. It may be about anything you want. What is something that you have learned along the way, or that someone taught you, or that was passed along, that has really just kept this fire within you going? What would that be?
I guess something that I have learned in the last year, and I've learned it the hard way, is you can't do this alone, right? And this is what I was telling myself. You can't do this alone, Karla, and you need to build that, you know, people power in that community so they can work on this with you together. And I can't solve all the problems in the world and create the boundaries to continue this work, right? Because there's a risk of burnout for that. So my advice to everybody doing any type of advocacy and just wanting to see your community to be a better place is to say that, yeah, you can't do this alone. And we need to build a big movement together so we can solve everything that is affecting our lives. So that would be my advice.
Lovely. That was wonderful. That was wonderful. Well, we're very grateful for you for making this time to talk with me, with Revolución Educativa. I know that, you know, it's been a little bit hard coming back on Monday. I took PTO last week and we happened to all be sick here at home. But what a beautiful way for me to start my week by chatting with you, hearing more about your work, and sharing the opportunities that you have to offer the community to get engaged with you. So can you give us that email and your website too, or your handles where we can reach out to AIRR if we want to volunteer or learn more about the work you do?
Yeah, our website has actually a get involved form. Thank you. And sorry, Christy, I'm right to answering the question, but thank you for inviting me and thank you for having this conversation. It's awesome to see you again. And I hope that you and your family feel better soon.
Thank you.
And we do have a get involved form online that people can fill out, and someone will reach out to them if it's me or someone else. But the website is AIRR with 2 R's, kc.org. And you can click on the volunteer get involved form and fill that out. Or you can just email us at info@airkc.org, and that's AIRR with 2 R's as well. And we will reach out. We'd love to have conversations with people. So we always schedule those. So reach out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Karla. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week. And muchas gracias. Felicidades for being an Impacto Changemaker. And we look forward to partnering with AIRR in these advocacy efforts for our Latino families and everyone else as well. Thank you so much. And sí, de nada. Y gracias a ti por estar con nosotros. This is it. Please connect next Wednesday. We will have another RevvED Up episode with another Changemaker you won't want to miss. And see you later. Bye-bye.
Gracias. Bye.
Adios.